Hello, everyone. Life has a way of testing us when we least expect it. Those hard moments, they're not here to break you, they're here to teach you. The key isn't avoiding the struggle, it's learning how to meet it head on. Let's talk about the strategies to shift from feeling stuck to stepping into action, even when everything feels impossible. Acknowledge the reality. When things get hard, the first and most important step is to acknowledge what's happening. It's easy to fall into the trap of denial, convincing yourself that things aren't as bad as they feel, or trying to downplay the weight of your challenges. But suppressing your emotions or ignoring the problem doesn't make it go away. It only adds to the pressure building inside you. Acknowledging the reality of your situation means giving yourself permission to feel exactly what you're feeling. It's okay to be frustrated, sad, angry, or overwhelmed. These emotions aren't signs of weakness. They're signals that something in your life needs attention. Facing the truth about your circumstances, no matter how painful, is a courageous act. It takes strength to say, this is where I am right now, and it's hard. This step is about stripping away the masks we often wear to show the world that we're fine. It's about letting go of the need to have it all together and being honest with yourself about the struggle you're in. When you stop resisting the reality of your challenges, you create space for clarity. You can't navigate out of a storm until you admit you're in one. Mm, Take control of your next action. Uh, when things feel overwhelming, it's natural to freeze. The weight of everything going wrong can leave you stuck, unsure of where to begin or what to do next. But here's the truth. The path forward starts with one small step. It's not about solving the entire problem all at once. It's about taking control of the next action you can manage. Focusing on the next action shifts your energy away from the chaos of everything that feels out of control. It's not about climbing the entire mountain in one leap. It's about putting one foot in front of the other. Even the smallest action, like writing down your thoughts, sending an email, or getting out of bed, is a victory because it moves you out of inertia. The key is to simplify. Instead of getting lost in the enormity of what's ahead, zoom in on the immediate moment. What's one thing you can do right now that feels manageable? It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to fix everything. It just has to be something. Small actions compound over time, creating momentum that pulls you out of feeling stuck. Taking control of your next action is also about reclaiming your power. In difficult situations, it's easy to feel like everything is happening to you, as though you're a passive participant in your own life. But every decision you make, no matter how small, is a reminder that you still have agency. It's about choosing to move forward, even if the steps are tiny and the road ahead is unclear. How this approach isn't just practical, it's empowering. When you focus on what you can do in this moment, you stop worrying about all the things you can't control. It narrows your focus to something tangible, something achievable. You don't have to wait for the perfect circumstances or for someone else to step in and fix things. You just need to take action, even if it's imperfect, messy, or uncomfortable. Stop waiting for motivation. One of the biggest misconceptions we have when facing difficulty is that we need to feel motivated before we take action. We tell ourselves, once I feel motivated, I'll start. But the truth is, motivation is a fleeting emotion. It doesn't come when we need it most, and it's often absent during the moments when we're stuck in fear, doubt, or exhaustion. If you wait for motivation to show up, you'll spend more time waiting than doing. The reality is that motivation is not a prerequisite for action. It's not something you wait to feel, it's something you create through action. When we sit around hoping for the motivation to get started, we're allowing ourselves to be paralyzed by an illusion. You don't need to feel like doing something in order to do it. You simply need to make the choice to act and then let the momentum from that first action fuel you. Motivation doesn't magically appear when the challenge seems impossible, but when you start, even in small ways, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical that makes you feel good when you experience success. This creates a sense of accomplishment, which in turn generates more motivation to keep going. It's not the other way around. Waiting for motivation is like waiting for a storm to pass before you move. Um, Sometimes you have to step into the storm, and the act of moving forward is what creates the drive to keep going. It's important to realize that motivation doesn't have to be intense or dramatic to be effective. Often it's the smallest actions, picking up a phone, starting a task, setting a timer for 10 minutes, um, that create the initial spark. These actions don't require the massive bursts of enthusiasm we imagine motivation will bring. They just require the decision to start, no matter how you feel. By waiting for motivation, you're putting your power in the hands of your emotions rather than your actions. Motivation will not save you. It's your consistent decisions, even in the absence of motivation, that will lead you to success. The truth is, you're capable of doing the work regardless of how motivated you feel. Motivation often follows the act of doing, not the other way around. Shift your perspective. When life gets hard, it's easy to become consumed by the negativity of the situation. Your mind can spiral into thoughts of defeat, and you may begin to view the challenge as an insurmountable obstacle. The reality is, the way you see your struggle determines how you handle it. Shifting your perspective isn't about pretending everything is fine or ignoring the gravity of your circumstances. Um, it's about changing the lens through which you view your difficulties, transforming them from roadblocks into opportunities for growth. Instead of seeing hard times as something happening to you, start viewing them as something happening for you. Life doesn't give us challenges randomly. Each one, no matter how painful or difficult, is an opportunity for growth. Hard moments test our character, push our limits and reveal strengths we didn't know we had. They force us to dig deeper, think more creatively, and discover resources within ourselves that were previously untapped. Hard. When you shift your perspective, you can begin to see that adversity is not your enemy, it's your teacher. Um, Changing your perspective means rethinking how you approach problems. Rather than focusing solely on the pain or frustration of a tough situation, look at what you can learn from it. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? Whether it's a lesson in patience, resilience, adaptability, or even humility, every struggle contains a nugget of wisdom. The challenge then is not just to survive, but to learn and grow through the process. When you shift your perspective, you also shift the energy you bring to the situation. Instead of feeling defeated by your circumstances, you begin to approach them with curiosity and a sense of agency. This mindset doesn't eliminate the difficulty, but it allows you to face it with a sense of purpose. You become proactive instead of reactive, empowered instead of helpless. The world doesn't need to change for you to feel better. Your perception of it needs to change. I love that. Perspective shifts are powerful because they free you from the victim mentality. When we see ourselves as victims of our circumstances, we disempower ourselves. But when we recognize that we have control over how we react, that's where the power lies. A tough situation can either break you or make you stronger. It's entirely up to how you choose to see it. Instead of feeling trapped by the hardship, look for the ways in which it's pushing you toward a new level of growth and understanding. Interrupt negative patterns. Mm, When things get hard, our minds often fall into destructive thought patterns. These negative loops can be subtle at first, but over time, they can consume our mental and emotional energy. It might start with a small worry, a fleeting doubt, or a brief moment of frustration, but left unchecked, these negative patterns can spiral out of control, reinforcing feelings of helplessness, anxiety, or even despair. The key to breaking free is to interrupt these cycles before they take over. Interrupting negative patterns starts with recognizing when they occur. Awareness is the first step in shifting your mindset. Negative patterns can be sneaky. They might show up as self-criticism, constant worry, overthinking, or catastrophizing situations. You might find yourself replaying the same scenario over and over in your mind, imagining worst-case outcomes or convincing yourself that you're not capable of handling the challenge. Recognizing these thoughts as they arise gives you the power to stop them in their tracks. You don't need to be defined by your thoughts. You can choose how to respond to them. To piggyback off of that one, I think stop responding. Once you've identified the negative pattern, the next step is to interrupt it. This is where you take deliberate action to disrupt the loop. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's essential. One powerful technique is to physically break the pattern. For instance, snap your fingers, clap your hands, or stand up and move around. The goal is to shift your focus from the cycle of negativity to the present moment. Physical movement helps reset your nervous system and shifts your energy from the mind to the body. Um, when you engage your senses in something different, you start to interrupt the automatic negative flow of thought. Another effective strategy is to challenge the negative thought itself. Ask yourself, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Often, the negative thoughts we entertain are exaggerated or unfounded. By questioning them, you create space for a more balanced perspective. Instead of letting the negative pattern run wild, you take control of the narrative. For example, if you're thinking, I can't do this, ask yourself, have I faced challenges before? What resources do I have to tackle this situation? Shifting from a mindset of defeat to one of problem solving is a critical way to break the negative loop. You can also introduce positive affirmations into the mix. When you find yourself stuck in a negative thought pattern, speak something positive into existence. It could be a reminder of your past achievements or a simple declaration like, I am capable or I am doing the best I can. Words have the power to shift your internal dialogue. By replacing negative self talk with positive statements, you gradually rewire your brain to respond with more confidence and self compassion. So, sometimes interrupting negative patterns involves taking a step back and creating some mental space. If you're spiraling, give yourself permission to pause. This pause doesn't have to be long, but it should be intentional. Use it to practice deep breathing, engage in mindfulness, or focus on something outside of the problem. Taking a break helps you regain perspective, allowing you to return to the challenge with a clearer mind and less emotional charge. Focus on the next right thing. When life gets hard, it's easy to become overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of everything that needs to be done. You look at your challenges and they seem endless, each task and decision piling up until you're paralyzed by the weight of it all. In these moments, focusing on the big picture can feel like a burden instead of a motivator. The solution? Narrow your focus. Instead of trying to handle everything at once, focus on the next right thing you can do, no matter how small it may seem. Focusing on the next right thing is about prioritizing the immediate step you can take right now. It's about breaking down the overwhelming into manageable pieces. When you're in a difficult situation, it's easy to look at the entire problem and get lost in the complexity. But the truth is, the road forward is often paved with small, deliberate actions. Instead of asking yourself, how am I going to fix all of this? Ask, what is the next step I can take? That's the key to finding clarity in chaos. This mindset shifts you from a place of anxiety to a place of action. When you focus on the next right thing, you stop fixating on the mountain ahead and start working on the first step. It could be something as simple as sending an email, making a phone call, writing a to-do list, or taking a moment to breathe. It doesn't need to be a monumental action. It just needs to be forward movement. So, by narrowing your attention to the most immediate task at hand, you remove the paralyzing fear of the unknown and regain a sense of control. Focusing on the next right thing also allows you to create momentum. When you complete a task, no matter how small, you experience a sense of accomplishment. This momentum propels you forward, making the next task feel more achievable. Each step, no matter how insignificant it may seem in the moment, contributes to a bigger picture. And over time, these small actions add up to significant progress. In moments of overwhelm, it's easy to become distracted by everything you think you need to do. You start to question your priorities, jump from one idea to the next, and become scattered in your efforts. The power of focusing on the next right thing is that it centers your energy on one clear, intentional action at a time. It eliminates the noise and allows you to channel your attention into what matters most right now. This approach is also incredibly powerful when it comes to making decisions. In times of uncertainty, it can feel impossible to know what the best decision is. When everything seems important, it's hard to discern what requires your attention most urgently. By focusing on the next right thing, you avoid getting bogged down by the overwhelming array of possibilities. You focus on what is most immediate, what you can control, and what will move you forward in this moment. Focusing on the next right thing is also a practice of self-compassion. When we're overwhelmed, we tend to beat ourselves up for not doing more, for not accomplishing everything we think we should. But the truth is, you don't need to do everything right now. What you need to do is take one step at a time. Allow yourself the grace to focus on what's in front of you, not on everything else. And by simplifying your focus, you ease the pressure and remove the feeling that you're constantly falling behind. On the roof of your desktop, pressure to feel. It's important to remember that life doesn't require us to have it all figured out at once. Progress doesn't happen in one giant leap. It happens through small, focused actions. The next right thing is just that, the right thing for right now. Trust that by focusing on the immediate step in front of you, you are making progress toward the bigger goal. And as you continue taking these steps, you'll begin to look back and see how far you've come. Celebrate small wins. In a world that often emphasizes big achievements and grand successes, it's easy to overlook the value of small victories. Yet, in the midst of a challenging time, those seemingly insignificant moments of progress are the ones that can make all the difference. When things get hard, it's crucial to recognize and celebrate the small wins along the way. These moments are not just stepping stones, they are the foundation of resilience, perseverance, and eventual success. Oh, the reason small wins matter is because they create momentum. When you're facing a tough situation, it's easy to feel like nothing is moving forward, that every effort you make is barely enough to keep your head above water. But when you acknowledge the small victories, you shift your focus away from what's not working to what is working. These small wins, whether it's completing a task, reaching a mini galley, or even just showing up for the day, act as reminders that progress is happening. They reinforce the belief that you're capable, that you're moving in the right direction, and that you have the power to keep going. Celebrating small wins is also an act of self-compassion. In the face of difficulty, it's easy to become your own harshest critic. You focus on the things you haven't accomplished, the miles you still have to go, and the long road ahead. This mindset breeds discouragement and exhaustion. But when you celebrate the small steps along the way, you affirm your efforts and give yourself credit for the progress you've made. It's a way of honoring the work you've done, no matter how minor it may seem in comparison to the bigger goal. Um, by celebrating these wins, you remind yourself that every action matters and that you deserve to recognize your efforts. Small wins also build confidence. Every time you acknowledge a win, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of succeeding, even in the face of hardship. This confidence doesn't come from completing the entire project or achieving the end goal. It comes from seeing that each small action you take is bringing you closer to that goal. Each win, no matter how small, is evidence that you can handle the next step. Over time, this accumulated confidence becomes the fuel that propels you through even bigger challenges. Furthermore, celebrating small wins shifts your mindset from a place of scarcity to one of abundance. When we focus only on the big picture or the end result, we can feel overwhelmed and defeated. But when we start recognizing the small moments of success, we train ourselves to see opportunity and growth, even in the most difficult of times. This shift in perspective is powerful because it enables you to find joy and satisfaction in the process, not just the outcome. The journey becomes just as meaningful as the destination, and the small wins along the way become a source of motivation to keep going. Um, the practice of celebrating small wins also helps to counterbalance the natural tendency to delay gratification. Often we think we can't celebrate until we've crossed the finish line, until we've earned it. But waiting for the big payoff can leave you feeling discouraged along the way. By celebrating small wins, you give yourself permission to experience joy in the present, even while you're still in the midst of the struggle. This recognition of progress, no matter how small, helps you stay engaged and connected to your goals, providing the emotional energy needed to keep moving forward. These small celebrations act as moments of reinforcement for your positive behaviors and habits. Each time you acknowledge a win, you're also reinforcing the actions that led to it. This encourages a cycle of positive reinforcement where each small step builds on the next, creating a stronger foundation for future success. Over time, these small wins can accumulate into substantial achievements, and you'll be able to look back and see how the consistent recognition of progress helped you get there. When you celebrate small wins, you are also modeling a healthy relationship with progress. Too often we dismiss our achievements because they don't seem significant enough, but the truth is that each step forward matters. It's easy to get caught up in the trap of always looking for the next thing, the next goal, and the next challenge. But when you pause to acknowledge the small victories, you train yourself to appreciate the journey, not just the destination. This approach makes it easier to stay motivated, stay engaged, and stay committed, even when things get tough.